Kraden versus Leviathan. Battle of the Ocean. In the endless expanse of the deep ocean, where light dares not reach and pressure crushes all but the most formidable, two ancient titans were destined to meet. The Kraden, a monstrous hybrid of man and sea beast, feared and revered by sailors, and the Leviathan, the primal serpent of the abyss, whose very name sent waves of terror through the hearts of those who dared cross its domain. Both creatures had ruled their realms in isolation, but the seas were vast and ever-changing. On one fateful day, their paths crossed, and the greatest battle the ocean had ever seen began. The origins of the Kraden. The Kraden was no mere myth. Born from the union of the god's wrath and the fury of the ocean itself, it had once been a man, a sailor named Kraden, cursed for defying Poseidon, the god of the sea. After betraying his comrades and abandoning them to the whims of the ocean, Kraden found himself facing the full fury of Poseidon. The god cursed him, binding his soul to the sea forever, turning him into a beast of both flesh and wave. The transformation was agonizing. His once human form was twisted and elongated, with jagged scales forming armor over his body. His arms stretched into powerful claws, capable of tearing through steel, and his eyes glowed a faint blue, able to see through the darkest depths. His legs were fused into a serpentine tail, giving him unparalleled speed in the water, while long tendrils extended from his back, able to manipulate the currents and seas at will. Thus, Kraden was born, a creature of hatred, rage, and vengeance. For centuries, he terrorized sailors, sinking ships and pulling their crews into the watery depths. Legends spread of the beast, but no one dared seek him out. The rise of the Leviathan. The Leviathan, on the other hand, was a creature as old as the seas themselves. In the time before man set sail upon the oceans, it had ruled the abyssal depths, slithering through the darkest trenches of the world's oceans. Described as an enormous, serpent-like dragon, with scales harder than any material known to man and eyes that glowed like molten lava, the Leviathan was the embodiment of the raw, untamed power of the ocean. For eons, the Leviathan remained in the deep trenches, uninterested in the affairs of the surface world. Occasionally, stories would emerge of entire fleets vanishing, ships pulled into whirlpools, or crushed beneath the weight of something far too large to be real. But those who knew the truth, ancient mariners and sea gods, whispered that it was the Leviathan, the primordial beast of the deep, reclaiming its territory. A collision of power. It was inevitable that two such colossal forces would one day cross paths. As humanity pushed further into the seas, disrupting the natural order, the Kraden's rage grew. He sought to reclaim his dominion over the oceans, tearing apart any vessel that ventured too far into his waters. His hunger for destruction and dominance knew no bounds. But the oceans were not his alone. The deep belonged to the Leviathan, a guardian of balance, a force too ancient to be controlled. The two beasts, both rulers of their respective realms, could not coexist. Their battle began not out of hatred, but out of primal instinct. Each sensed the other's power and recognized the threat they posed. On a stormy night, in the midst of a great typhoon, the ocean's two greatest titans finally met. The battle begins. The sea was in chaos as the two creatures approached each other. Massive waves churned as the Leviathan's colossal form slithered toward the surface, drawn to the disturbance caused by the Kraden's rampage. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the water in brilliant flashes, casting eerie shadows of the monsters as they neared. Kraden struck first, using his tendrils to whip the ocean into a frenzy. His roar echoed through the water, causing nearby sea creatures to flee in terror. With lightning speed, he launched himself at the Leviathan, his claws poised to tear through the ancient serpent's armored scales. But the Leviathan was no ordinary beast. It had seen countless battles, and its sheer size and power were unmatched. As Kraden's claws raked across its body, they merely glanced off its impenetrable hide. The Leviathan retaliated with a mighty swipe of its tail, the force of the blow creating a shockwave that traveled for miles, sending Kraden tumbling through the water. Undeterred, Kraden regrouped, his fury only growing. With a scream that vibrated through the sea, he wrapped his tendrils around the Leviathan, attempting to immobilize the beast. His claws slashed relentlessly, seeking weak points between the Leviathan's scales. For a moment, it seemed as though Kraden might overpower the ancient serpent. But the Leviathan, calm and calculating, had other plans. Using its immense strength, it twisted and coiled its massive body around Kraden, pulling the sea monster into a death grip. The two creatures became entwined, locked in a brutal struggle. The ocean itself seemed to tremble as they wrestled for dominance, their massive forms causing whirlpools and waves that threatened to sink nearby islands. The ocean's fury unleashed. As the battle raged on, the very fabric of the ocean began to change. The surface waters boiled as the titans clashed, sending towering waves crashing into distant shores. The sea gods watched from afar, knowing that this battle was unlike any other. The outcome would determine the fate of the oceans for centuries to come. Kraden, with his ability to manipulate water, summoned massive whirlpools, trying to drag the Leviathan into the depths where he held the advantage. The sea churned violently as the whirlpool spun faster and faster, threatening to swallow everything in its path. But the Leviathan was a creature of the abyss, and no depth could contain it. With a deafening roar, it broke free of Kraden's grip and lunged forward, its jaws wide open. In one swift motion, it clamped its massive maw around Kraden's torso, its teeth sinking deep into his scaled flesh. Blood filled the waters, and Kraden howled in agony. But even as the Leviathan attempted to crush him in its jaws, Kraden refused to submit. With one final surge of strength, he extended all his tendrils, wrapping them around the Leviathan's head, pulling it back. For hours they fought, neither willing to yield. The ocean itself seemed to shrink beneath their power as the waves grew larger and the winds screamed louder. But in the end, it was the Leviathan's age-old strength and resilience that prevailed. The aftermath. As dawn broke over the horizon, the storm began to calm. The waters, once filled with fury, slowly settled. In the distance, the figure of the Leviathan emerged victorious, its massive body rising from the ocean's depths. Kraden, defeated, drifted lifelessly in the water, his once mighty form reduced to a broken shell. The Leviathan, though bloodied and scarred, had triumphed. With a final guttural roar, it disappeared, beneath the waves returning to the deep, where it would rest and heal. The ocean, now at peace, would remain under its dominion. The tale of Kraden versus Leviathan would be whispered by sailors for generations, a reminder of the untamable power of the ocean and the ancient forces that dwell within it. Both creatures, in their own right, had been legends. But in the end, the Leviathan proved itself the true king of the deep. The battle had shaken the ocean to its core, but its peace would endure until another challenger rose from the abyss. Please share, like, hit that subscribe button, and comment for more stories like this. Thanks for watching.